Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And it's Monday, but it's a listener story day.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, no, exciting.
Okay, no.
But different. So last week, I know we said it on our last listener stories episode, but last week we had to switch our listener stories and our regularly scheduled Monday episode because I got sick. My whole family got sick with the stomach flu. And so it was a whole debacle. And we already had the listener stories episode recorded. So this week, we're just doing the listener stories first because I haven't caught back up after being sick. I'm gathering myself here.
Yes, but next week
We're back on track.
we will be. But you're
God
still
willing.
getting 2 episodes. It's just swapped.
Sorry if this throws anybody's schedules off. I know change sometimes does that to me.
Yeah.
And it is doing that now, but we'll get it together. I'll get it together. I promise.
We've both been struggling.
It's been rough.
I feel like we say that every 2 or 3 months. We're like, we can't get it together, but it really is that way.
I was fine until we got sick. And then we've literally been out for like a week straight of.
It was bad. It was really bad.
It was really bad.
There was a time that we recorded and her husband called and was like, hey, son just threw up. So she had to leave.
Yeah. So it's been something, but we're getting it together. Everyone's fine now. Knock on wood. Here we go. Our tea today.
Part of the Harry Potter box.
Yes, the Harry Potter box set that I got for Christmas. This one is Slytherin Pomegranate. Natalie's a Slytherin.
I am a Slytherin and I do like pomegranate. Would y'all have guessed that? Don't say what you are.
Okay.
If you've never said it before, comment what you think Macy is, what house she is, and would you have guessed that I'm a Slytherin?
I think you just give off Slytherin vibes, but I don't know if it's just me because I know you.
I think I do. But when I've talked about it at work and stuff with other people, they're like, Slytherin? No. But I think that's just because I'm always, when I'm at a job.
But your core is like
rotten. Yeah.
You're not rotten. Anyway, you ready?
Yes. Let's go.
It's kind of like the Earl Grey one where it's kind of a light taste.
It's very light, but I like it. Just like the pod has changed me in the way that I believe in some cryptid things now, I've started to like the fruity teas. Coming around. It's pretty good.
I'm glad. It'll open up our options to trying other things.
Yes.
I'm still an Earl Grey kind of person or anything fall coated.
Yeah, me too.
But we're going to start our stories off today with a continuation of one of the people who wrote in for our Duendes episode. So if you haven't seen that one, that was a pretty good episode. We posted that on Thursday. This is Roxanna. She had a couple of more stories in her email that just didn't fit in with Duendes. And so I moved them over here because they were good.
Nice. I'm ready.
So Roxanna says, my dad's school was pretty far from where he lived and he had to get up super early to even catch the bus. He would wake up. The roads would be empty, but some cars would drive by or a few people would be walking. But he said this morning he was alone on his way to the bus. He said it was a foggy and cold day. He was nearing his area when he saw a nun in all white. He was confused since he knew everyone who would be at the bus stop before and after him arriving. He saw no one but that nun. He couldn't see the nun's face. He kept walking, but felt a weird feeling when something in him told him to stop. As he did, he looked down to see the nun had no legs.
Oh,
she was just all white clothes and floating. He was in shock, and he knew he had to leave. However, something in him told him not to turn his back on it. As he stood there, he felt like it was forever. When he heard his name being called, but from behind from where he had at first come from, he didn't dare to turn around when he heard someone approach him and grab him by the shoulder. My dad finally reacted and jerked away, scared. It was his older brother with his PJs on. He was confused why he was there since his brother should be on his way to work in a different location. His brother told him, hey, you don't have school today. Let's go home. My dad was confused and his brother told him, no, not today. As they walked away, my dad asked if he had seen the nun. My uncle looked at him and nodded. My grandma had woken up that day and saw my dad leave for school, but something in her knew that he shouldn't go to school that day and woke up my uncle to go get my dad. They never spoke of it again. Not sure what or who it was, but they didn't need to figure it out.
This is why I love listener stories, because you'll be in the middle of telling it, and then I start to go, oh, this is someone that listens. This is like a personal story. This isn't something we grabbed from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spooked.
Isn't that terrifying? I love a good mother's intuition story, though.
Yeah.
Mom woke up and was like, he can't go to school. He needs to come home.
Yeah.
Other son, go get him because something's wrong. Something's up.
Yeah, I love stories like that. I think we've talked about that before, how our mom's very intuitive and always anytime she tells us, oh, I don't want you to go there. I'm like, so I
She'll
won't.
be like, I just have a feeling. I'm like, got it.
And I'm not
It's
going to
set
go.
in stone.
Mm-hmm.
I also like how they were like, we don't need to know who the nun was. That's okay.
Agreed. That's fine. Leave it alone.
She can just live her life at the bus stop and hopefully we'd never see her again.
Yeah, that's okay.
The last story. My dad played with the board that shall not be named, but the
Oh.
typical board that is used to speak with the dead / spirits.
Oh, no.
He
Was
did-
this before or after the nun?
I'm not sure. Probably after, I'd assume. But that's just the way my brain works, is to put things in chronological order. So he didn't want to play, but sat in the back to watch. His group of friends were joking and playing around when all of the lights turned off. They all screamed and my dad dipped. He thought someone had turned it off, but no one was home besides his friends and him. His friend's parents had gone out. My dad said, yeah, no more of that. However, my dad is a firm believer in ghosts and listens to podcasts in Spanish of ghost stories and such, and I had mentioned y'all's podcast and he wanted me to share his stories to y'all. Thank you so much for taking the time to read these stories. I have so many more, especially my brother, and I hope he sends in his stories. Also, I have many stories with weird stuff happening at work, especially when I am at work alone. Let me know if you'd like to hear those. Have a great day / night. See ya, Roxanna.
Thank you, first of all. Second, love that you talked about us with your dad. That's so cute.
I know, that's adorable.
And we've had people like that where they listen with their parents
With their
or
mom
their
or
sibling.
their grandma. Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
I am glad that the board was only just the lights and it didn't affect him. Although, if like you said, it was before, was the
Then
nun.
it's a whole new thing.
Yeah. And let us know some ghostly podcasts in Spanish. That's cool. We have some Spanish speaking audience here.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, I wish we could translate the entire pod into Spanish.
Well, maybe we can learn Spanish by listening to other ghostly podcasts.
I think about this often, how I feel like I should be fluent.
We should be. We took like 3 years in high school of Spanish.
Well, that's debatable.
I can understand. Well, I did. I can understand more than I can actually speak.
Agreed.
Like if I'm reading something in Spanish, I can generally, as long as it's not too crazy, like if it's on like a 3rd or 4th grade level, I can definitely understand what's going on. But
Yeah.
I'm just not fluent at all.
One day I will be. Mark my words. One day I will be.
We'll hold you to it. We can have a study group together. All the ghosties will get together and learn Spanish from our
Dude.
Spanish speaking audience.
Oh my God, imagine.
That would be so fun, honestly.
It really would.
We learned Spanish through ghost stories.
That would be cool.
Our next story comes from Emma. I have a dream and a ghostly Ouija board story for you girls. First, my dream story. I lived in Stirling, a city in Scotland, for a few years when I was aged 3 to 7, roughly. I would have a dream every night around age 4 to 7. In my dream, I was sitting in my stepfather's car in the complete darkness as one of the streetlights had gone out. He did food deliveries at night, so I often went and sat in his car while he did this. In the dream, the streetlight was flickering, and I was watching a tall man in black with a hat approaching the car. He was looking down, so I could only see the hat, and I always woke up before I saw his face. Fast forward to when I was 7. I was out with my stepfather at night while he was doing food deliveries. I started to have a weird feeling in my stomach, so I asked if I could come with him to the door to deliver the food. As we were walking back to the car, we saw a man in a hat looking in the car window. My stepfather shouted over and he ran away. I never had the dream again, but I always wondered if this was a premonition that something bad could have happened to me.
That is nuts. That gave me like a chill that won't even manifest outside. Like inside, I'm like,
Shivering?
yes.
Yeah, mine went to my heart. I'm glad that you had those dreams though, and that feeling to accompany it that told you this is what I've been preparing you for, you know? Reminds me of the story of the I think it was a listener where they opened their mirror and they saw this man's face like coming at them.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
they went and they were like riding their Heelys
Mm-hmm.
at the mall.
And they saw the guy.
Yeah. Next is their Ouija board story. When I was around 12 or 13 years old, I started to get into all things ghostly and paranormal. My friends loved this too, so we all decided to do a Ouija board. We did it in my friend's house, who has one of the oldest buildings in our town. It was built around the 1800s, and whenever we stayed over there, we always heard noises and just felt uneasy there. So we thought there would definitely be something in there. We made one out of paper, and nothing happened. We bought a real one from a witch shop, lit candles, and started playing it. The planchette started moving wildly, and 2 of the candles blew out when we asked if someone was there, and they said yes. The candles were on the other side of the room, not near any windows or anything that could have put them out. We asked if they wanted us there, and it shot to no. As soon as it shot to no, I felt a burning pain on my back. After we had heard nothing for a while, we asked if someone was still there. The planchette never moved, but we heard 2 piano keys being played. My friend had a piano in her room and nobody else was home. Once we said goodbye, we turned the lights on to see 3 big scratches on my back in the exact place I felt the burning pain.
Oh my gosh.
We did the proper things to cleanse the board and got rid of it, and safe to say we never used it or any other one again.
The right reaction.
Agreed.
As you should.
To physically manifest like that and like physically attack somebody is so scary to me.
I agree. This just came to my mind. I don't know why. I just need to share it. I don't know if any of you remember, we were talking about Zach Baggins at one point and how he has like that museum in Vegas and you have to leave something when you leave. And I have this friend that did not leave something just because she was like, I want to see what happens, which first of all, how dare you? She watches the pod. I didn't know she still watched the pod.
Oh, hi, Brittany.
So, hi. Thank you. She Snapchatted me the other day. She was watching the pod and she was like, oh, I just remembered. She had a baby, or she has a baby. She had it recently. And he had a pacifier in his mouth. And they had friends over or whatever. And the pacifier disappeared. And they were like, oh my gosh. And they tore the living room apart. Took off the couch cushions, shook out all the blankets, everything. 4 people could not find this pacifier. She's like, whatever, I guess it'll turn up someday. I don't know. I'll just get him a different one.
It's twin days.
Listen. It disappeared, whatever. The friends went home. They went to bed. She woke up the next morning. It's sitting on top of a blanket, just sitting right there, like it had been placed. And so she called her husband. She's like, you're messing with me. I know you're messing with me. He's like, I swear to you, I did not see it and I did not put it there.
Ooh, that just gave me the chills.
And it freaked me out. And I was like, it's because you didn't leave something at the museum. And
it's still like, haunting her.
You need to go back with like a sack of gold and leave it at the freaking thing.
And a letter of apology.
I know. And I was like, why are you playing around? She's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I will go back one day and I'll leave something.
Let's go with her.
No, I don't want to go and I don't want to be around her attachment that she has.
Yeah.
But I just thought of that because she has played with Ouija boards. She's like adventurous in that way. I don't know why. But hello, if you're watching.
So our next story comes from Mads. Hello, my name is Mads. I've got many stories to sort through to figure out which I should submit, but I figured I'd do the scariest.
Oh, yes.
So I'm in my 20s now, but back in elementary school, my mom, my sister, and I were setting up to have a sleepover in the living room since my dad was out of town. We were all gathering our pillows, blankets, etc., so I went to grab mine. Our house had 2 stories, and my room was on the second. We had often heard stomping coming from the second story opposite of where my room was located. Once it was so loud, my mom brought a gun upstairs thinking we had an intruder. That makes me think of, who is it, Taylor's story where her mom went down into the basement.
Oh, and was like,
mimic. Yeah.
I'll burn this whole house down.
Yes.
Stop it. Love.
So anyway, I go upstairs to grab my stuff, and while entering my room, I'm careful to hold the door in a position where it stays open because it had a tendency to close but not fully shut, and my hands were going to be full. As I turn to leave my room, pillows in hand, I hear a very aggressive twist of the doorknob, and right in front of me, the door slammed shut. Now, I was freaking out and calmly proclaimed that I'm just going to go downstairs and to not mind me. I slipped out the door and ran downstairs. That's all for that story, but I used to have sleep paralysis fairly regularly, so I've got a few of those too. Once in high school, I was sleeping and woke up, sat up, and laid back down only to feel a warm hand grab the back of my head as soon as I closed my eyes. I had the most disgusting warm chill sensation run up my neck, spine, and head. I shot up and yelled my sister's name because I thought it was her, but no one was there. Needless to say, I definitely slept with the lights on that night. Anyway, here are my submissions. I hope y'all are doing well, Mads.
Oh, wow.
Just to drop that little second nugget in there.
Speaking of sleeping with the lights on, I recently got new lamps and I have been sleeping with it on. Just because it makes me feel better. I don't know. Because like if it's fully dark, I'm like...
Not gonna lie, I've been sleeping with my lamp on too. Jake comes to bed after me, so I'll just like turn the lamp on and... Like, I'm like, oh, I'll turn it on because he'll be in here soon. And then I'm like, really just, I don't want to be in the dark.
I've been reading my book. So for our book club.
Thank you.
So I have it on and I'm like, eventually I'll turn it off. I close my book and I'm like, after this house episode. And then I wake up and it's the next day.
Having the door slam right in front of you though, you're like minding your own business, trying to get your pillows for your sleepover and just whap.
And then saying, don't mind me. I'm just here. Felt.
Our next story comes from Zoie. Hi, my name is Zoie. I just recently found your podcast and have always loved listening to other people's ghost stories / experiences. I've always had experiences to talk about, and I just wanted to tell you about my first experience that I remember very vividly. Growing up, I was no stranger to scary things. From the age of 5 and up, my mom raised me on Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Chucky, and Jason. Side note, that now that I'm a bit older, she's told me about some things like the imaginary friend I used to have at age 3. My mom would make my imaginary friend a place at the table every night when we were eating dinner because I wouldn't eat until she had it set up.
That's pretty sweet.
That's cute. But anyways, I live in a small town with nothing but fields and country back roads. We lived in a single wide trailer down a dirt road. Further down the dirt path was an old cemetery. Me, my brothers, and cousins used to climb the big tree in the middle of the cemetery and hang out there when we were bored. I know it seems weird, but we lived in a town with nothing to do, and back then, it was a thing. We also lived in a town with nothing to do, so it's not that weird to us.
Literally nothing to do. Go backroading.
Yes, that usually ended up either by or near a cemetery, yes.
Yeah, just to get a little thrill because there was nothing else.
We always made sure to never disrespect the tombstones and would apologize if we stepped on them. My first paranormal experience was not related to that, but something else entirely different. My dad used to collect Native American artifacts, arrowheads, and pieces related to these artifacts. There used to be an arrowhead-shaped piece covered in epoxy with a painting of a Native American tribe on it. In the middle of the tribe, there was the Native American chief, with his big regalia and the feathers on it holding his walking stick or a spear, I assume. When I was about 4 or 5, I used to have nightmares every night, and I would run from one side of the trailer to the other to my parents' bedroom and sleep with them for the rest of the night. Well, one night in particular, I had my nightmare, got up, ran through the living room all the way to the other side of the trailer to my parents' bedroom, and got in the middle of the bed in between my mom and my dad. My parents were heavy sleepers, and I never woke them up. Whenever I did that, I would just go back to sleep. Well, I was doing my usual thing, trying to fall back asleep when I looked at the doorway. I didn't realize that when I ran through the living room, the TV was on. But it was on the white noise channel. Not concerning to me, being 5 years old. I was just worried about getting to my mom and dad's room, in their bed, because I didn't like the dark growing up. So, with that channel being on, it casted just a little bit of light through the doorway. And when I looked at the doorway, I could see a black, smoky figure that filled the 6-foot doorway completely. I was frozen in fear and unable to move as I was terrified of what I was seeing. I remember this exactly like it was yesterday. The energy he gave off completely terrified me, and I felt just pure hatred coming from him. As my eyes adjusted, I looked closer, and I realized that it was a black, smoky skeleton figure. I could see the skeleton head and the ribs, but it was all black and smoky looking. He also had what looked like Native American chief regalia on his head. He was just standing in the doorway, staring straight ahead. Me being a 5-year-old little girl, as I said, I was completely frozen with fear, in the middle of the bed. I couldn't move to wake my mom or dad. I knew I would have to shake vigorously to wake them up. As I kept staring at this smoky Native American skeleton figure, he started to walk straight ahead into the room to the edge of the bed. I kind of got enough energy to take the blankets and yank them over my head. When I looked back to see if he was still there, he was still walking towards my left side where my dad was. When he reached my dad's side of the bed, he stopped, turned towards me, my dad and mom sleeping in the bed, and he bent over just slightly to stare directly at my dad while he was sleeping. I was completely terrified and slammed my eyes shut, hid under the covers, and made myself go to sleep. I think I had told my mom what I'd seen that night and that I saw the same figure that's on my dad's arrowhead picture, and she probably just blew it off because I was scaring her. I can only assume it was a Native American chief attached to one of those artifacts. I swear to you this story is true. To this day, my mom and my brother have said that ever since I was 5, I've told the story with no changes in it whatsoever. What kind of 5-year-old can make up a story like that? I have seen some other weird paranormal experiences, but this story was long enough for today. Thanks so much. Love listening to you guys.
I was going to say the same thing. Since he collected so many artifacts,
That it was something attached.
Yeah, 100%.
I wonder what happened. What happened to all your dad's stuff? Did he donate them or sell them or something? And like, did it ever go away
gone?
Or is it still there?
That's interesting. I've been freaking myself out a lot lately in the mornings. I never wake up in the middle of the night. Last night I woke up at 3 and then I woke up at 6. Like, it was because of my allergies. Like, I was just literally dying and my throat was hurting so bad. I took a 24-hour allergy pill twice. I took it at 3 and I took it at 6. I didn't care.
Giving my kids allergy medicine and literally like poured a couple for them and was just like, yeah. And just drank the rest of the bottle.
And it's not helping. I'm just suffering. But yeah, so I've been waking up and then I freaked myself out.
Because of what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. No, you're not haunted. We've done enough like praying, and we have like all these crystals that all of our listeners have sent us and protection things. So,
but the lamp stays on because I'm scared.
That'll keep them away.
Yeah. Light, light in a blanket.
It is the shield for the spiritual world.
Agreed.
I found your YouTube last night and have been obsessed since. I love the amount of research you put into the topics you talk about. I have a ghost story for you. For a little background, I live in New Jersey in a very old farmhouse set back in the woods. It's very quiet besides coyotes and foxes, and my closest neighbors are about half a mile away. I grew up in this house, and it has always been very unsettling. It was built in 1902 and has not been touched at all. Everything is original, including a large wardrobe that is in my bedroom. When I was a kid, I always felt watched in my bedroom, even when I knew that nobody else was home. I never thought much about it. Old house, creepy feelings.
I'm already thinking about The Conjuring with the wardrobe.
I was too.
I'm scared.
I just am seeing in my mind's eye the girl sleepwalking and just
and then the thing on top of it.
Ooh.
Oh, I just scared myself.
That's one of my top 5 jump scares of my life.
Yeah. Speaking of jump scares, watched The Woman in the Yard.
What is that one about?
A woman in a yard.
Okay.
She's sitting.
Give it away.
She's sitting in the yard and she's covered with a black veil. She's like, today's the day. The trailer was scarier than the movie.
That's sad.
And it was very dark. And I've seen people on TikTok say I'm not one for trigger warnings, blah, 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 deal with your own stuff. But that movie needed a trigger warning because it was dark. It was dark.
Ugh.
Google the plot and everything because I don't even want to talk about it. It was dark.
Okay. You know what? I'll start watching scary movies with you.
Please.
I need to catch up. I'm so behind.
Hereditary watch party. That's for our first live stream on Patreon.
First live stream, Hereditary watch party, whenever that happens.
Yes.
About 3 years ago, I was homesick from school. My mom and dad were at work and my other siblings at school. Weird things were happening all day long. Things that sounded like footsteps and cabinets opening. I assumed it was just the house settling. Eventually, I fell asleep and was woken up to someone knocking on the door. I went to answer the door, and it was one of my neighbors that regularly would come over and watch my siblings or just to hang out. I told her I was sick, so I didn't want her to come in and possibly catch what I had. She said that she simply saw my dad outside when she drove by and wanted to stop by to talk to him. I was confused because I hadn't heard my dad get home, and he wasn't supposed to be home for another 4 hours. I told her that I would go and look for him and send him out. I searched every place in my house where he could possibly be, and he was not there. I decided to go look in the garage to see if he was out there or if his truck was there, and it wasn't. I went to tell the neighbor, and she was absolutely shocked because she swore that she saw him checking the mailbox. She chalked it up to her old age and seeing things and left to go home. I went back up to my bedroom, and as I walked into the room, I noticed something off. The room was freezing, which is abnormal, and one of the doors of the wardrobe was open.
No.
I had no reason to open it and nobody else was home to do it, so I freaked out and went down into the living room, thinking my fever was messing with me or something. I stayed down there until my mom got home from work, and the entire time I heard footsteps and doors opening upstairs. It was one of the most terrifying things that I have ever experienced.
He's in the wardrobe.
Oh, Natalie, how dare you?
He's in there. Oh, I'm scared.
He just comes down to check the mail and then goes back.
Since he was checking
He's
the
waiting
mail
for his package. He ordered something on Etsy.
Well, if it's USPS, it's not getting there. Don't get me started. The fact that he's doing mundane things like checking the mail and stuff like that, maybe he just used to live there and that was his bedroom, Maybe
he just liked to hang out in the wardrobe.
He opened the wardrobe, put his little coat on, and he was going to
head
work
outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's exactly what it is.
It's fine. And their fever was messing with them. It's fine. It's fine.
I like that they just went back downstairs and hid in the living room until the family came home, because that is exactly, even hearing things upstairs, I don't think I would move. I'd just be like, everything is fine. Like turn the TV on and just wait.
Turn it all the way up. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're in the car and you hear a weird noise from your car, just turn up the radio.
No auto shop for me today.
Yep, turn up
just
the radio.
Louder music.
Don't take that as advice.
Don't.
This is coming from someone that had to get a new car because I was several thousand miles over needing an oil change.
Very neglectful.
And they told me my oil turned to pudding. So do not take any advice from me.
No. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh because it's not funny, but
I'm traumatized. RIP to my Fiat.
Our next story comes from Poppy, which, by the way, love your name. Hello, my name is Poppy, and I am from Great Yarmouth in the UK. And I just wanted to share my experience with you girls and the listeners. When I was about 13, I'm 29 now, I was staying at my mom's house as I lived with my dad at the time. My mom and dad had a bit of a messy breakup, and me and my older sister lived with him for some time, whilst my other two siblings went and lived with my mom. One week, I was visiting my mom, and I would constantly Skype and video chat my best friend. And she had mentioned that week she kept noticing someone behind me, but couldn't make out who it was. There was no one behind me, and I just ignored it as nothing.
I hate stories like this.
One evening, I was in my younger sister's room with the door shut. I can confirm 100% no one was in there with me. My friend said she saw the person again and quickly pressed the camera button on webcam to take a picture. The picture clearly showed a little boy peeking out behind me, wearing what looked like striped pajamas. He had dark black hair, but his facial features were all blurred. I remember putting this picture on Facebook and people commenting like, wow, this is crazy, but the picture disappeared not long after, and I still can't find it anywhere. We didn't have Photoshop back then or anything that could have been that good at adding the little boy into the picture, and my best friend still promises to this day that it was real. I can't debunk it. I never saw it in person or on the live webcam because I wasn't looking, but the picture was so clear and real. I wish I could find it. This hasn't happened since. My mom moved out of the house only 6 months later, so perhaps the boy was linked to the house. Thank you, and I love the podcast.
That's horrifying. I've heard several stories like that.
Of being on like a video chat.
And they're like, who's behind you? What do you mean?
Oh,
no.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh, that is sick. But also it reminded me of that picture of us from Facebook around 2009.
Oh, where you're behind me?
Yeah, I have it on my phone.
Okay, you'll have to send it to me. We'll post both pictures. Natalie just showed me another picture that was so funny and cute.
Yeah. It's always been Macy as the main, and I'm just like the little side character, like, haha, adding a little note.
A little spice. Well, now I feel like you're the main, and I'm just like here to like feed you.
I disagree. We all disagree. Continue. I hated the way you said that.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't think of another way.
Feed me.
It's the allergy medicine. I'm so sorry. Our next story comes from Payton. Hi, I don't know if this is one y'all would like to share because it's not super scary or spooky, but more sweet. Still freaky to me though. LOL. We love a sweet ghost story, so.
And one day we will have a
have it on the calendar.
A happy listener stories episode.
This is the only experience I'm sure I've had. However, I sometimes feel as though I'm not alone, but I don't count those because I can't be sure if it is a paranormal experience or just me being paranoid. But anyways, for backstory, my pawpaw, grandfather, on my mom's side, passed away a few days before my 2nd birthday. I never knew him, but my mom always told me that he spent his last days spending all his time with me, as I was the last grandchild born before he passed, and he was aware that he was dying. So, from what I've been told, he had a very close bond to baby me. So I think this is why I experienced what I did. Fast forward a decade and I'm 12, laying in my room, half asleep. I'm facing the wall when I heard a sort of whispering from behind me. I'm terrified, and I slowly turned over while pretending to be asleep, tried to keep my eyes super squinted, when I saw a figure walking slowly along the far wall of my room. I swear on my life that it was my pawpaw. It looked like him. He was wearing overalls and everything, but the edges of his figure were very hazy, and overall he looked kind of pale, as it was easy to see him against my dark blue walls in the middle of the night. It looked like he was walking in slow motion, and a few seconds after I turned over and looked at him, he looked directly at me and smiled like in all the pictures my mom has of him, like my pawpaw. Then he just faded away. I brought this up to my mom and her mom, and they've experienced similar things. Feels good to know my sweet pawpaw is keeping watch over us, and now I'm just waiting for something from my mama on my dad's side who just passed this year. I just found y'all's podcast today a few hours before I wrote this email, and y'all are fantastic. Been binging your podcast all day. Much love from your newest fan, Payton, a Louisiana girl.
Oh,
that's a really sweet story.
I love that one.
I love stories of family members still just kind of keeping an eye.
Just being there.
Just being there to love you.
I love it. Oh, why'd you say that?
Sorry. We also have a pawpaw.
Yeah, we do. I think that's a southern
name.
Mm-hmm. For a grandparent.
Yes.
I know a lot of people with, what'd she say, mamas?
Mama.
I know a lot of people with mamas.
Yeah, me too. And by that I mean one.
Oh, well, I know several. There's Meemaw, Peepaw. There's everything you can imagine. I've heard of a Popo before.
I've also heard of a Popo. I love all of them.
What are we doing?
They're so funny.
What are we doing?
I like it. That's like one of the best things about Southern people.
It's so funny. What do you mean you have a Mimu and a Poopaw? Like, what are you talking about?
But if they say it in conversation, you're like, oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, okay, I love the South.
Hey, I love it. Sometimes. Sometimes. Our next one is from Onna. I think it's how you say your name, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Hello, I love your podcast. My name is Onna. I travel and I work at an old college, so I have lots of stories. However, I might only send in one story. One of my scariest trips was to Boston, Massachusetts, and Salem, Massachusetts. I was staying with my sister, who is a big scaredy cat, so naturally, I did not tell her why we were staying at this hotel. My first night, I stayed in the Omni Parker House, which is the building based off of Stephen King's 1408. The house itself has many stories you can just look up, but this is my first-hand experience. The story of room 303 is very important. The short version is, a man died in that room while smoking and drinking whiskey. I was staying on the second floor and was told upon checking in that the elevators have a mind of their own. The rooms were outdated and old, so it was already creepy. However, I did research before arriving that the 3rd floor was haunted and had some creepy history. So out of curiosity, I wanted to see the 3rd floor before bed. I told my sister I was going to explore the hotel a bit. It was grand and definitely that old money style, so she did not think anything of it. I headed to the elevator solely because I was hoping it would make it more spooky. As the elevator came up from the 1st floor, I heard people talking inside. When it opened, no one was inside. I assumed people downstairs were just being loud since there was a bar. I stepped on the elevator to head to the 3rd floor. Once I stepped out onto the 3rd floor, I was hit with this cold air and a heart-sinking feeling. All the lights on this floor were either flickering or out. Room 303 was the one I wanted to see for its history. As I was searching for it, I noticed it was tucked away in its own nook of the hallway, away from other rooms with the only working light. I heard some knocks coming from inside the room. I ran as quickly as possible to the elevators. Even as I stepped out back on my own floor, the chilling feeling was still there. As I got back safely inside my room, I tried to act as normal as possible in front of my sister. However, she seemed incredibly suspicious of me. She proceeded to ask me if I had walked through the bar area. I told her no and asked her why. She told me I smelt of smoke and whiskey. There was no way she knew. My sister does not like haunted or spooky things, so there is no way she knew. I told her the history of the building and my recent experience. We then spent the entire night with the lights on. I have some other stories from my travels. I know you did some videos on St. Augustine, and I have my own stories from there. Thank you, and I love your podcast, Onna.
For her to come back with that smell on her.
The knocking, so it acknowledged that she was there.
I was thinking it was like trying to come out. It's
Oh.
like, let me out. I don't know.
I hate that.
But
it
it did
did.
myself.
At least a remnant of it did. Follow her back to her room.
That is sick.
I kind of wish something like that happened in New Orleans.
I knew you were about to say that because that's what I was envisioning, and I don't.
No?
I would have been so scared.
Like, that's just, it's such a small thing. Like, that's really scary. Looking back on it, you can be like, phew, you know, like it's easier to look back on rather than like, I was sleeping and I woke up and there was someone hovering over me and they ripped the blanket off me. Like something, you know, more physical. At least
Yeah.
it was just kind of like a little thing like, hey, I saw you. I know what you were doing. You wanted to see me. Here you go.
I don't like that.
You know?
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, it still gives me chills though. We'd love to hear more of your travels and your stories.
Oh, and the St. Augustine thing. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Our next story comes from Julia. Hi, new listener here from Brazil. My name is Julia, and your podcast made me think about a story that my aunt told me that happened to her. Love your guys' content, by the way. Here's the story. First, I would like to say that my family, especially my dad's side, is very connected to the spiritual world, so they have lots of stories that I'll have to tell later. This is probably the more complex one. A few months ago, my aunt was at her brother's house because my cousin wanted to play with his daughter. A few moments passed, and my aunt was pulled aside by his wife, who's known to be sensitive to this kind of stuff. She then proceeded to tell her that my cousin was feeling off, energy-wise. I have no idea what that means. So she recommended to my aunt that she should go to a spiritual cleanser because it was probably something related to the energy that her house was giving. After a few weeks, she decided to go. Keep in mind that she only went with her boyfriend, leaving my cousin and her older brother at home. To summarize, he told her that she should buy a fish, something related to, quote, keep the energy moving. A couple of weeks went by and she forgot about what he told her. So she went on with her life like normal. One day, my male cousin told her that he had a dream about buying a fish and that he had a very strong feeling that they should. She got chills immediately. When finally buying the fish, my cousin actually bought two, one male betta fish and a female betta fish. She was pink. He said that he got a feeling that he should buy the pink one. After arriving home, the pink fish got really tired, like it was swimming a lot slower. My cousin presumed that it was from the room that it was in. Maybe the energy is really bad here, he thought. So he brought her to his room to stay on top of a really high shelf, covered with a lid with holes on it. They have cats, so that was the safer option. The next morning, my aunt woke up to screaming. My cousin went to her in a panic, telling her that the fish had vanished. No, the fishbowl wasn't on the ground or tipped over. The fish just disappeared. She immediately went to the spiritual guy for some explanation, and he said that the cleansing, quote, worked so much that the fish was kind of a sacrifice. After a few weeks of the disappearance of the pink fish, my cousin finally found him, dried up under his bed.
What?
There was absolutely no way the fish could have gotten out of the bowl and under his bed without anyone noticing. Even if it was one of the cats that did it, they would have eaten the fish right away. Even after all that, my aunt still wasn't feeling safe in her home. She told me that the vibe was still off, so she sent someone to sage her house. After the saging, my brother was asleep and woke up to someone banging on his window. They live in an apartment on the 4th floor.
No, I knew you were about to say something horrible.
After turning on all the lights and opening his window, he saw nothing and went back to sleep. He then woke up to his mattress sinking like someone had stepped on his bed. After that, nothing happened, but now they always keep a fish in the house.
R.I.P. Pinky, the fish. I don't know the name, but the pink fish.
Yeah. So when I first read this, I thought like a fish, like from a fish market, like, you know, like a whole fish. And I was like, are they supposed to eat it? But
I was
that
thinking
makes
a
a lot
fish.
more sense. I know that betta fish jump, but if you have a lid on it, if there is a lid closing up the bowl, how does it still get out?
I was going to say the same thing because my beta, R.I.P. Poof Puff. I couldn't decide on Poof or Puff, so its name was Poof Puff.
Yes.
I jumped out of the bowl one time and I found it flopping and put it back and he lived. But you said there was a lid.
There's a lid. The lid.
I was going to say that. The eye contact of us. I was waiting for one of us to say it. And also, yes, if the cats got it, they wouldn't just leave it under the bed. A betta fish is like, what, this big? They're going to like snatch it up and eat it.
And knock the bowl over.
That too. Something's not adding
It's
up.
all weird.
Something's
to end up
fishy.
under the bed, I don't know. That feels very weird because you're vulnerable and you're sleeping under your bed. And like we've talked about like a lot of spiritual things happening while you're in such a vulnerable state in your sleep. And like sleep paralysis and all the strange things.
You didn't hear what
Dreams.
I said.
No, what'd you say?
I said something's fishy. It felt stupid. I felt really stupid and you just kept talking. So I was like,
I'm so sorry I missed your joke, but that's hilarious.
no, it wasn't funny. But then when you
Did you do
ignored
it on
it.
purpose?
Yes,
Oh,
but then
okay.
when you ignored it, I was like, yeah, I really shouldn't have said that. Was so stupid.
No, that's funny.
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
no, that's insane.
Our next story comes from Gissel. Hi guys, my name is Gissel. You guys are my favorite podcast. It feels like I'm on FaceTime with my sister. We also grew up in a haunted house and live in a small rural town. Are you our sister? I have lots of stories from the house. We are pretty sure my dad was under demonic attack, but I also have stories because my town is so old and multiple places are said to be haunted. At least that's what we heard growing up. I also have a video of a ghost walking in the background of my friend's video. I'll send it and that story in another email. Okay.
Gosh,
Here's one story. It's late one night and my mom is sitting on the couch waiting for my brother to come home from his restaurant shift. He worked late hours, so she and I had this routine of staying up together until he got home safe. Next to her is this small round glass side table tucked against the wall. As a little girl, that space between the couch and the table was my own little cave. I'd crawl back there, hide, and play. Well, one day my brother walks through the door, tired but ready to settle in. As soon as he walks in, he sees a little girl dart between the couch and the table, like she's trying to hide. Laughing, he calls out, "Ha! Gissel, I see you. You're not scaring me." He starts walking towards the table, fully expecting me to pop out and try to scare him. But as soon as he points to where he saw the little girl hide, my mom just stares at him confused. Gissel isn't here.
Oh, no.
She's spending the night at a friend's house. For a moment, my brother stands there frozen. He glances at the table, then back at my mom. "No, I saw her," he says, but there's no one there. That was the last time my brother ever saw the little girl, but she wasn't the only one lingering around. My sister used to see someone too, a man. But that's a story for another night. Best, Gissel.
They do it to us every time.
Every time.
That is horrifying because your kids like to do that.
That's so creepy. I just hope it was actually a little girl and not something worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our last story here. It's from Heather. Hi, Macy and Natalie. Hope I spelled your name right. Sorry if I didn't. That is okay. You didn't. But that's okay. You spelled Natalie's right, though.
What? Of all the names in the world that you could spell right, you
I
got
know.
mine.
She added an E on the end of mine.
When people spell my
I
name
think it adds
right,
a little flair, though.
yeah, when people spell my name right in the comments or anything, I'm always like, how did you know?
Who are you people?
Yes. But I guess it's because like you put it in captions
In the
and things.
descriptions and stuff, yeah. My name is Heather, and I recently found you guys on YouTube. I spent the last couple of weeks watching all your videos, and I've been trying to decide what story to tell you. When I got to your Deathbed Visions episode, I immediately knew which one it should be. My grandpa, who passed away this July, had been sick off and on since November when he fell and broke his hip. He lived with my parents and I, and his room was down the hall from mine. I got up one night to use the bathroom and looked towards his room. He had a chair that sat facing his bedroom door. That night, when I looked that way, an old woman was sitting in that chair looking back at me. It freaked me out, but I also wasn't scared of her. I looked away and looked back, and she was gone. It wasn't until a month later when I was developing old pictures from my aunt that I realized who that woman was. She was my great-grandmother, my grandpa's mom, who he'd been talking to earlier that day. I never met her. She died years before I was born.
Oh, That's gonna make me cry.
He saw his mom.
Oh, and she came back to like take him.
That episode is one of the best episodes I think we've ever done. Like in terms of making me feel good. Because it was because it just, I don't know, it gives me hope. It gives me good feelings that the people you love most are the ones coming back to you. So like your mom, if your mom was your comfort person, she's going to be there to take you and show you on to the beyond, because dying can be scary. You're moving, you're transitioning from one thing to another, and it's always good to have a familiar and loving face with you.
I don't want to cry. I'm trying really hard not to, because that is so sweet. Because he's old, right? He's a grandpa. He's old, but his mom is still
your mom.
Still your mom. Oh God.
And we even saw in some of the deathbed visions and stuff, it wasn't even like if they had bad family, like if their mom wasn't, a good person for them in their lives, it was their aunt or their best friend's mom, or whoever was their comfort figure in life. Thank you, Heather, for sending that story, because that's beautiful, and we're so sorry for your grandpa's passing, but
it was beautiful. He's with
beautiful and comforting. He had his mom to show him on. Well, now I'm gonna cry.
Yep. Let's go ahead and end it, because I'm feeling sad. They were all good. Yeah. I loved this one.
If you have a story you'd like to send in to us, you can email us at ghostiespod@gmail.com. That's the best way to get your stories in. If you like this video, please like it, share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so, and subscribe for more. Thursday will be our Monday episode. If you're still here, it is Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm scared.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
I'm very excited, very nervous. People are going to be mad that you said the word, but...
No, I'm sorry. It's just the name, okay?
It's the one time. Well, people swear you're not supposed to
say it. I don't know. There's conflicting things. Like, you're not supposed to say it in and around the Four Corners area and like the more sacred ground of the Navajo, the Dene people.
That's what I assume.
And they don't travel outside of that area.
That's what I assume, because when I'm like, they're not going to hear me in my room, but
we could talk about it in the next episode a little bit,
because I'm very intrigued.
It's more than I think you think it might be. Okay. If that made sense.
Okay.
Anyway, next week we will be back on track. We're getting over a sickness. As long as these allergies don't fall into something else, don't turn into something else, we should be good to go. Thanks for being here today, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Goodbye.